evening, Mr. Chairman and members of council. First of all, I want to thank Ms. Eubanks for getting out the agenda this past Friday. That was very helpful to have the agenda several days before the meeting, and also I noticed it was posted outside of the administration office as I walked by, and also outside of the chambers here. So I really appreciate council's efforts and staff's efforts in getting that agenda out to the public, and so thank you for that. On the agenda for tonight, again, I reviewed it after receiving it, and I want to thank you also for removing the language that said that the building on Church Street, the neighborhood center building, was advertised with an asking price of $50,000. I see the with an asking price of $50,000 was removed, and I think that more accurately reflects the advertising and the proposal to sell the building. Last month, I asked about whether SciTech, who had presented a demolition proposal to the council, which was included in the packet and which was discussed several times in the information about the sale to justify the selling price of $50,000. I asked a question about whether they were an independent third party that had submitted that proposal, and I wasn't sure, and so I decided I'd look into it a little bit, and I went by a construction site down in Aiken on Walker Avenue on February the 16th that had a SciTech construction sign in the yard. Nice house going up in what's known as the Horse District there of Aiken County. And so when I pulled up there, I saw a gentleman in a little silver car, and I went up to him and asked him who was building the house. Had a SciTech construction sign in the yard, and he said, "I am." I said, "Okay." I said, "Who are you?" And he said, "John McCracken." So I said, "Okay, good to meet you." I introduced myself, gave him my name. He talked a little bit about the house and that he was building it for somebody. It wasn't a spec house that he was just building. And he asked me, did I want to go look inside? And the house was probably half to three-quarters constructed. So I did, went inside, and the house seems to be very well built. From my limited knowledge of construction, it looked like a well-built, very fine home that Mr. McCracken was constructing there. And I know I've spoken out about this proposal several times, and it never was about Mr. McCracken or the kind of house he builds. In fact, he said he was going to build 9 on this site in the town of Edgefield. We talked about that a little bit. And I asked him, I said, I see here this sign about the SciTech construction in the front. I said, are y'all partners in this? He said, yes, we're partners. I'm partners with SciTech Construction. So that answered my question that I wasn't sure of, whether SciTech and McCracken were, in fact, partners. And so that raises the question whether the SciTech demolition proposal, which we have in front of us, was from an independent third-party person, or is it someone very closely related to Mr. McCracken? And it just seems like that if the county is going to rely on this information from SciTech based on this demolition proposal addressed to David Cadell and Roger LeDuc, that it ought to come from an independent third party, not the partner of the buyer. And to show an example of that relationship that the county has put out in several different documents. The ordinance itself says that the fifth whereas although the appraised value is higher than the proposed sale price, the structure would require asbestos abatement at a cost to the county. And then the number 3 enacting clause says, in light of the appraisal and mitigation efforts, council considers the sales price as reasonable and in the best interests of the citizens of Edgefield County. In the agenda, the language regarding the sale of this building and the description of this consideration of Ordinance 21-22-793 says the county asked a commercial contractor for an estimate for an asbestos assessment, removal, and demolition. The estimate was $68,000. As the appraised price minus the abatement estimate demonstrates that the original deal is appropriate, staff recommends that council proceed with the sale to John McCracken. And then finally, in one of the documents in Exhibit 2 for the agenda tonight, entitled Neighborhood Center Breakdown, it's stated there on October 26, 2022, Edgefield got an estimate from SciTech Construction for the actual cost of demolition. The estimate was $68,000, so the actual land value of $112,000 minus the actual cost of demolition is $44,000 actual value. That's in the final page of Exhibit 2, which was given to council tonight. So it's apparent that this proposal estimate from SciTech is being used to justify the 50% reduction from the appraised price of $100,000 to the sales price of $50,000. And I would just urge you that if we're going to rely on a estimate, that it come from an independent third party. There are a number of contractors in the area. In fact, the Town Council of Edgefield last night had 3 proposals to demolish the old finance building there on Main Street. And I realize the county is not planning to demolish the building, but we're being asked to use the figure from the partner of the buyer to justify the sales price of $50,000. So I would ask, before giving this final approval, that you get an independent third party to give you an estimate. I'm not in that business. The $68,000 may be a very fair price for the demolition. It may be high, it may be low. I'm not passing judgment on the actual figure of $68,000, but just the fact that it came from the partner of the buyer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here to speak on Ordinance 21-22-793, an ordinance authorizing the delivery of an agreement of purchase and sale and the conveyance of certain properties between Edgefield County and John McCracken, his successors and assigns, parcel number 137-0602-030-000. So this is second reading, I'll remind everybody, but Mr. Administrator, I'll call on you to see what you can tell us.
The only thing I'd like to add is it's suggested that we solicited an estimate. I was aware from Mr. McCracken that he had obtained an estimate to do an abatement demolition of the building. He did not have a copy of it, so I requested it for public information. Once we received it, we were obligated to share it. The county did not solicit estimates. We are not in the business or do not intend to demolish this building ourselves. But when I was aware that there was one available, I asked for it for information purposes. That's all.
So based on what you just said, correct me if I'm wrong, that Mr. McCracken got the estimate from, what do they call it? SciTech, whatever, however they pronounce it, SciTech. But he got that to see how much it would cost him.
That's correct. We did not solicit that information from Mr. McCracken. Once I was available that there was an estimate, I asked for it. I would suspect that there is a relationship between Mr. McCracken and SciTech because Mr. McCracken offered the information.
So said a different way, what you're saying is, I think, is that Mr. McCracken was getting an estimate, even if it's from a partner, must have been a good price, I'm assuming, because why would your partner give you a high price or give you something you couldn't afford? So I'm just assuming, again, we didn't ask for it, we can't make judgments, but like others, we can speculate. And certainly we can speculate that if he got that estimate from a partner, that was probably a good number and probably an inexpensive number relative to what others may have charged him. So just FYI, I'm speculating, not asking, I'm pontificating too. So anything else we need to know about this one from you two?
The pricing there is common to that type of business. So we have no reason to think it's out of the ordinary. You know, if the estimate was $200,000, we may question it, but it doesn't appear to be out of the ordinary.
Okay. Thank you. I'll turn to council. Questions or comments from council?
Yes, I have a comment. Always have a comment. I just want to say, we're not looking at this information that came to us about asbestos removal for justifying the sale of this. We don't need that to justify the sale. What justifies the sale of this property was $50,000 was all we could get when this property was sold. I don't care if it got an appraisal for $100,000. No one would give us $100,000 when this property was sold. Put a price tag on it, fine, but that was not what it would sell for. It sold for $50,000, what we asked for. This man came, gave us what we asked for. At that point in time, that's what it was worth because that's what someone was willing to pay. We don't need this asbestos abatement information to justify the sale of this. And anybody who has any knowledge, and I have none, about construction, but I know asbestos removal is expensive. And so, I mean, I know that this figure is going to be somewhere around the ballpark anyway. So, and again, I just want to remind people, some people have the impression that this is a new item. This is not. This sale happened over 2 years ago now. This happened way back when, and it started even before that. All of the things that we needed to do are done. Mr. McCracken came with a fair offer of what we asked. He gave us the money. We agreed to sell it to him. It's time to sell this property to him and be done.
Other questions or comments from council?
I'd just like to follow up. Actually, this thing started back in 2018 from previous councils. It got approved. It got stopped in the courts. The only reason it got stopped was because the appraiser the county used was an in-house appraiser. And to quote two people on social media, just because something appraised high also doesn't mean there's a buyer for it at said price. Second comment, appraisals are tools for loan companies. The only real showing value of something is a buyer closing on the item and purchasing it. This is economics 101. It can be appraised at $1 million. It doesn't matter if nobody's willing to buy it. So if we got $50,000, that's what we're going to get.
I would like to say also, we've been working with this for a long time, and this seemed like we're beating a horse across the back. And I think we need to move forward and go ahead, and I am in favor of it.
Any other comments from council? Okay. Hearing none, I assume you're ready to vote. So is there a motion to give second reading to ordinance number 21-22-793?
So moved.
All right, Mr. Talbot makes a motion. Is there a second? Second. And Dr. Kenyon seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All opposed, motion